Let's get into what works when it comes to gun control. So you said that there was one thing that does work, concealed carry laws.
Well, I think if you're talking about mass public shootings, I think the thing you have to do is look at what they write in their manifestos and diaries. And the media refuses, and I wish somebody would give me a benign explanation for this, but the media just absolutely refuses to cover that part of their diaries and manifestos where they explain why they pick the targets that they do. Isn't that interesting? Don't we want to talk about why they claim they're picking the targets that they do? And over again, what they say is they want to pick a place where victims can't defend themselves. These guys overwhelmingly want to commit suicide. They feel unappreciated. They'll go and say, if I can only kill more people than such and such did, I can get even more media attention, or my name will be in the history books. And so they know they want to get media attention because they feel unappreciated. And they know the more people they kill, the more media attention that they're going to be able to get. And they know if they go to a place where victims aren't able to go and defend themselves, they're going to get more media attention. You know, you take something like the Covenant School shooting in Nashville earlier this year in March. The Biden administration still hasn't released the diaries from the killer there, but the Nashville police chief had gotten a chance to go and look at the diaries. And what he said was that murder actually, their first choice target was a mall, but they had looked into it and they had discovered that they allowed concealed carry at the mall. Then they picked the school because they didn't think anybody would be there in order to stop them. You take the Buffalo mass murderer from last year. In his manifesto, he spends a great deal of time explaining why he picked the target that he did. He wanted to go to a place where he knew his victims were defenseless, where they wouldn't have guns. And on our website at crimeresearch.org, we have literally dozens of similar statements from these other attackers. We just had this attack in Maine that you were just referencing. The bowling alley there has a sign at the front door that says that the guns are prohibited in the place there. You know, so take some of these cases. So you take something like the school shooting in Nashville. They have a gun-free school zone law there. If you or I take a gun onto the school property there, we're violating the law and we will face 6 years in prison. That's a big penalty. For you or I, our lives would be completely changed if we were to go and break that law. But what about the murderer? Let's say the murderer had lived. Obviously, they died at the scene there, but let's say they had lived and they were facing 6 life sentences. Would adding another 6 years, they say, well, I can live with 6 life sentences, but you add another 6 years onto it and that will stop them from committing it? You know, the point is that for law-abiding citizens, those penalties, that's a huge life-changing penalty. But for somebody who's already, assuming that they even live, and
Right.
these guys are intent on dying usually, is 6 years really a real penalty for them? It's
Right.
like
They're not
no,
deterred. Right.
it's like all these laws do. I mean, I understand the desire for the law. I understand the notion that if you just ban guns in certain areas, you're going to make them safer. But the problem is that all the laws do is ensure that the most law-abiding good citizens are going to be disarmed, and that the criminal then is going to take advantage of that, and they're going to be attracted to it. My own guess is that the whole gun control debate that we have right now would be dramatically different if the media just covered a couple things differently. If they were to go and say, for example, we've had yet another mass public shooting in a place where guns are banned. 94% of the mass public shootings in the United States take place in areas where guns are banned. You know, so I'll make a criticism of conservatives on part of this too, and that is a lot of conservatives will go and say, well, we need to have a police officer in every school. I don't mind having a police officer in every school, but please don't put them in uniform. I mean, that's what they want to do. They want to put a uniformed armed police officer in each school. Let me ask you this. We have air marshals on planes. Do you think air marshals should be in uniform? Do you think that would be a good idea to put an air marshal in uniform?
Right.
Why don't we put air marshals in uniform? Pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want the terrorists to know who it is the one person that's on the plane who's supposed to stop them, right?
Right.
Because they could try to take that guy out. Well, the same thing is true with the school. You have one uniformed police officer there at a school. It's an almost impossible job. These attackers have real tactical advantages. They can wait for the officer to leave the area before they attack, or they can go to another target to go after it. Or what they can do is they can try to take out that one officer first. I mean, having him in uniform is like the guy having a neon sign above them that says, shoot me first. Because
Right.
they know if he's the only person that's armed and they take him out, they're going to have free reign to go after other people that are there. So there's a couple things. One, if the news media would once in a while mention we've had another mass public shooting in a place where guns are banned. But there are other things too. We constantly hear this refrain that the United States is unique in terms of mass public shootings, and that's simply false. It's not even remotely close to be true. There's many countries in Western Europe that have higher per capita rates of mass public shootings. So like you're in California. Nobody would compare the total number of murders in California with the total number of murders in Wyoming, right? You're going to go and look at the murder rate that's there. Well, the United States, we're the third most populous country in the world. Okay, we have over 330 million people. You take a country like Germany, for example, they have 80 million. Look at something like school shootings. We've had 10 since 2000. We've had 10 mass public school shootings in the United States. Germany's had 3. That's the way it would normally be compared. But Germany has less than 1/4 the population that we have. So if you adjust theirs, they're having the equivalent of 12. You take a country like Finland. Finland's had 2. Well, Finland only has 5.5 million people. If you were to adjust it on a per capita rate, that'd be the equivalent of 120 in the United States. Norway's had 1. Norway has a population of just over 5 million people. You adjust theirs, they're having the equivalent of like 60 compared to what is in the United States. And so I understand kind of why the United States media doesn't cover these attacks that occur in other countries. This is the United States. If an attack occurs here, it's more newsworthy in a sense. But, if these attacks get any coverage in other countries, it's usually one short news story, and that's it, buried deep in the paper. So if I were to ask you, if you look since 2010, for example, and just compare Western Europe versus the United States, can you name to me where the 2 worst mass public shootings have occurred?
In the United States?
Compared to Western Europe.
Oh,
Just compared to Western Europe and where have the 2 worst mass public shootings occurred? Both have occurred in Western Europe.
Really, have they? In Europe?
Yeah. You look at the November 2015 concert shooting in Paris. 130 people were killed there.
Compared to the Las Vegas.
The Las Vegas shooting, this is more than twice the number of people killed in Paris. You look at the Norway killer. He killed 67 people. That's still like 9 more or 8 more than died in the Las Vegas attack that were there. So just compare, and once you get outside of Western Europe, there are lots of cases in the rest of the world that just don't get any news coverage at all. That are much worse in many ways than any of the mass public shootings in the United States. In many of these countries, Germany and France, I just mentioned, it takes over a year to go through the process to get licensed to have a gun. In both the countries, you have to take 2 psychological screening tests. In France, they've essentially banned semi-automatic guns that are there. The attacks occurred there with machine guns. Semi-automatic guns aren't allowed, let alone machine guns. You see a similar thing in Germany. So, lots of these countries with much, much, much stricter gun control laws than the United States have much higher rates of deaths and rates of mass public shootings on a per capita rate.
Okay, so once you adjust for population, things start to look different, is what you're saying with the data.
Right.
So the data, they're constantly telling us, well, they have fewer, but that's because they're just giving us the number rather than actually adjusting. Let me tell you about another really great product, Relief Band. This is something I have used for years. It's this device like a watch, kind of like an Apple Watch, but it doesn't have, it doesn't have all the crazy things you need. It just has a button, real simple. You press it, and this thing starts to sort of vibrate on your wrist, and this is going to help you stop the nauseousness. So if you get motion sickness, if you're nauseous for any reason, this relief band actually works. It's the only thing I get really bad motion sickness when I'm in the backseat of a car. If I'm on a boat, I mean, forget it. I can't get on a boat. Roller coasters, I just get really bad motion sickness. And Relief Band has been my saving grace. I've tried the pills. I've tried the pressure point bands. I've tried everything. And I'm telling you, Relief Band is the only thing that makes it to where I can tolerate. I mean, look, I still get a little nauseous. Some people say it's completely gone for them. It depends, I think, on your level of nauseousness and why you're nauseous. For me, though, when I'd go to a theme park and I'd ride a roller coaster, that I would be miserable for the rest of my time there. Relief Band makes it to where I can actually enjoy myself. The nauseousness maybe is there slightly for a minute and then it's gone and I can move on to the next. So this has been a real great thing for me. And you can change the intensity when you press that button. You can change it, mild, medium, it goes up, I think 5 different settings on it. And it really does work. So this is an FDA, it's the #1 FDA cleared anti-nausea wristband. It's been clinically proven to relieve and effectively prevent nausea and vomiting associated with a variety of things, including motion sickness, anxiety, migraines, hangovers, morning sickness, chemotherapy, so much more. So whatever you might be nauseous over, you can use your relief band, and this will help eliminate it, and it will also help or alleviate it, eliminate it in some cases, or it'll help at least prevent it if you use it in advance. And you could use your HSA and FSA dollars to get a relief band. So whether you need everyday nausea relief or just an occasional cure from nausea, their patented technology makes feeling sick a thing of the past. So head to reliefband.com and get 20% off your relief band, as well as free shipping when you use the promo code KIM at checkout, and that link is down below.